Hi everyone, good morning and good evening. Welcome to Dynamics Spy Global Community webinar series. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time to join for the webinar. And tonight is the 21st episode of Expert Connect session from DGC. So let me talk a little bit about DGC right now. So we, a couple of Dynamics Spy enthusiasts, started DGC back in January 2019 with the intention of building a stronger community for Dynamics by consultant, customers, and partners. So our intention was basically just having a good network among Dynamics by consultant, which I find is very less in this part of the world, though we have a lot of consultant over here. And then learn more from others and give back to the community. That's what we have been doing very successfully. So we have been conducting webinars and meetups since then, since the inception of DGC. And we have members all around the world and experts from all the technologies coming under Dynamics 5. And DGC conduct webinars very religiously on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. And also our community includes a lot of enthusiasts who are really trying to become an MVP. That's why this section we are conducting now. We have had very interesting webinars and discussion in the past conducted by experts belong to DGC. We have sessions on Dynamics 5 portals, and then security of Dynamics 5. We have multiple sessions on integration of Dynamics 5 with many other applications using different tools. Multiple sessions on Microsoft Power Platform, including a builder for Dynamics 5 Power Platform, and then conducted sessions on certification on Dynamics 5, and multiple sessions on Power Automate, etc. Even I was fortunate enough to conduct a few sessions on Dynamics 5, especially on certifications, then Power Automate, etc. Our last session was conducted by Sudeep Chakravarti. The topic was Dynamics 5 workflows versus Power Automate. It was on November 27. And our next session is scheduled on 8th of January. So when I talk about tonight's session, it is the 21st episode of Expert Connect session, as I mentioned. And our topic is how to become a Microsoft MVP. So our topic and our speaker is Mark Smith. He's a Microsoft Business Application MVP, MCT, Dynamics by consultant, speaker, trainer, and popularly known as NZ365 guy. He's very popular among Dynamics by community, and he helped a lot of people to reach their potential through technology. And he conducts a lot of impressive work in this Dynamics by domain, conducts podcasts and webinars very regularly. I was even fortunate enough to attend one of his 90 days challenge program last year. It helped me a lot. I'm thankful to Mike for that. And he's very kind to join us tonight to conduct the session. In fact, it is for him for now, and he's even ready to just take the session for us. And I'm really happy that we have a group of MVP aspirants here. And Mike, Mark, we expect your help and guidance for all of us to become an MVP in the near future.
Well, thank you very much. Now, what I like to do is when I do presentations and things, I like them to be interactive. So you're going to see partway through here, I'm going to ask for audience participation. And I don't move on until I get audience participation. So don't be shy when I ask questions. Either jump in the chat or come off mute and let's have a bit of a discussion. So today, the topic, of course, is around becoming an MVP. And so what I want you to do is have a think about that. In fact, before I jump to showing you a presentation, on my YouTube channel, I have published 33 videos on how to become an MVP. So I'm not going to repeat that content. That is up there. Go subscribe to the channel if you wish, but you will see there's 33 videos where I break down over 33 weeks. I produce one video every Monday around how to become an MVP. So it's quite detailed. The most recent one here is Ask Me Anything, but I go through all the steps and in quite some detail. In fact, I've raised the attention and got a lot of people upset in that they feel that I'm revealing the secret sauce to becoming an MVP, and nobody has ever kind of done that. Specifically, the two that upset a lot of people was this one here on the benefits of becoming an MVP and magic number 27. But if you really want to get the full value and understand what it takes to become an MVP, start with number 1 and work your way through to 33. Each one's about 5 or so minutes long, but it will give you a good feel of the steps you need to take to become an MVP. Anyhow, the first question I always ask people when they say to me, I want to become an MVP, is why? And it's a very important question because your motivation will drive your habits. So if you're sitting here watching this now, maybe write down on a piece of paper or open a notepad file and type out this question to yourself, why? Why do I want to become an MVP? And I see there's 2 groupings of people in my experience that want to become an MVP. There are those that want to become an MVP because it's a byproduct of what they want to give to the community. They want to give to the wider community. And it's not so much they want to become an MVP, they feel it's a recognition of service. The second group are those that want it because they want the status of it. And so therefore they want to learn what do I have to do just to become one? And the problem with the second group, and when I talk to you about this right now, I'm thinking of specific people in my mind that I know are desperate to become MVPs. And they are doing lots and lots of activity which would be recognized by Microsoft and the community, but you can see their intent is to become an MVP, and that is their driving goal. It's not, their driving goal is not that they love the technology, they love what they do. And that comes to my second point here, which is the MVPs that do very well in this program are those that love what they do. Fundamentally, they love the technology they specialize in. They love to contribute or give back to the community or make or share their knowledge. In fact, there's a book written by an author called Malcolm Gladwell, and he refers to MVPs as mavens. I think the book is The Tipping Point from memory. And a maven is somebody that prides themselves on being the most knowledgeable about a topic and then loves sharing that with that individual's community of friends, associates, anybody kind of in their sphere of influence. But their fundamental driver is their love of the area that they specialize in. In our case, it would be the love of the technology. So if you're looking at Microsoft Business Applications, and let's say you love Power Automate, and you love how it can make people more productive, and it can make complex processes simple to do, and it creates so much value, you will constantly be looking for ways to how to be better with Power Automate. You'll look for ways to how to know it more deeply. And then as a natural byproduct of that, you might share your knowledge. You might share it through various means, whether it be responding to people's questions in forums. It might be, writing blog posts on the subject. It might be creating videos on the subject. It might be speaking at events, whether online events or in-person events. Some people write books, which, for me, seems crazy, just because in the world of technology that we live in, the shelf life of a book these days is so small, being that they become, as soon as they're printed, they're often obsolete because the technology is now evolving at such a fast rate. When I first became an MVP about 9 years ago, if you wrote a book back then, you would get a shelf life of 3 years. And the reason is because Microsoft only updated the technology once every 3 years. So at least you had a 3-year sales window. Now, you release a book, it's pretty much obsolete the day you publish it because the technology would have changed between the date of you writing it and the date of you publishing it. And Microsoft releases 2 times a year new content. So maximum 6 months would be all the shelf life of a book these days. So but people have written books as a contribution. But I want to come back to the central point here around love. If I said that there's those two categories of people wanting to become MVPs, those that are just trying hard out to do all the right things and be seen. And I can tell they absolutely want to be an MVP, but is their heart in the right place? Are they doing it for the right reasons? And ultimately, the right reason should be you love the technology so much and you love sharing with others. Those are the only two things it comes down to. If you do that, if you love the technology, if you love sharing, and there's really kind of a third component, and other people love what you do, and they value what you're sharing, because you might share a lot of stuff. And, once again, if I look at these people that have tried to, if you like, game the MVP system, what they try to do is they'll copy other people's content and they'll repost it on their blog, or they will share lots of other people's content on social media and think, hey, there's my contribution. Well, you're not really adding any original thought to the conversation. It's not your knowledge. You're just taking somebody else's and repurposing it. And that's not an MVP. An MVP is someone that gathers their own knowledge, articulates it in their own voice, their own language, and shares it. And so, you're going to ask yourself, what is it that you love? And then how are you going to share it and become known for that thing, and ultimately becoming the guru for that thing or that topic area. And remember, under Microsoft Business Applications, there's around 26 products nowadays. So there's lots of areas that you can become the guru, and if you love that bit of technology. So one other thing I would say here is the importance of staying focused if you're on your journey to becoming an MVP. You need to focus on one technology only. Now that changes when you become an MVP. You can then cross-categorize and be awarded for multiple categories. So to give you an example, you could be awarded for Microsoft Power Apps, and you could also be awarded for Microsoft Power Automate. But on day one, when you first go in for your nomination, you want to be strongly in one category. And I say this because I've known a recent example of a gentleman that, did a lot on Azure, did a lot on Power Apps, did a lot on Power BI. It was all over the place. And when they came time to award him, it made it very difficult for them to go, which category does he sit in? And so in the end, they made no decision. So he didn't get any category. And so focus is very important. The fundamental core tenet of becoming an MVP is that you're a skilled expert in one of Microsoft's technologies. So you need to be a technologist. At the very heart of it, you need to love what you do, and you need to share what you love. And then you need to become known for that, right? So you need to be clearly known. I talk a lot in those videos about importance of branding and being known consistently in the global marketplace that we live in. So the next question I have for you is, what are you going to do to get involved? How do you get involved? One thing I notice, a lot of the audience here is from India, and India is the most underrepresented country in the world, one of them, when it comes to around community engagement, which is interesting to me because in my observations and in my history, in Australia, I had a team of 70 consultants working for me on dynamic CRM projects, 365 projects. And a lot of them were Indian. And a lot of my friends and colleagues are Indian. But when I look at India and its representation in the community, I don't see a massive representation. For the size that India is, I would expect we'd have a lot more MVPs from India, specifically in the dynamic space, where we only have, I think, less than 5, which surprises me. And I think India is one of the biggest opportunity growth areas that exists right now in the world. What do I mean by this? I mean, I don't see a big representation around local user groups. And local user groups are really the heart of the entire community system. And in fact, I'm going to create a video series in 2020 on how to run local user groups, because I think and my observations, and when I say this, I launched 6 user groups in Australia, grew them to 2,000 members across Australia over a 4-year period. And I noticed, and I was just on a call again yesterday for the 2020 year of all the leaders that are going into places for the user groups across Australia. And it is the thing that drives community engagement. It is where people come together and they share their knowledge, and it's very collaborative. It's not about one central person, but it's about everybody coming together. So my question to you is, how are you going to get involved? Part of becoming an MVP is getting involved. It's having a voice. Now, that doesn't mean you are necessarily the public speaker. If public speaking is not your thing, you don't have to get locked into that. Remember, there's MVPs out there, like the authors of the XRM Toolbox, Tangi, and the many other contributors to it. All they do is create that software. They don't necessarily publicly speak or blog or do other things, but that's their area of contribution, and it's highly valuable. Another MVP, Scott Duro, he's created a tool called the Ribbon Workbench. That's over 1 million downloads. Now, straight away, does that product offer value? Has he made a massive contribution? Absolutely, 100% he has. So get involved. You need to get involved in the community, and people need to see that the involvement that you have creates value to them. Now, the other thing about being an MVP is being vulnerable and being genuine. You don't have to be the guru to the extent that you must never get it wrong, right? I make mistakes all the time. A genuine person and a vulnerable person is somebody that is quick to admit their mistakes. And often I see in our community people that are uncertain or not as genuine. They always try to one-up each other by all their accolades. So, I've got, all the current certifications. I've been, doing this for 100 years. I've been, I'm more expert than that person over there. Listen, you never have to talk about your expertise. You never have to tell people how expert your expertise is. You need to show them, right? It's by your actions that people see this. A lot of people, like if you take a look at my website, nz365guy.com, you will not see me mention, like there's no MVP logo on my website. And all the videos that I have created around how to become an MVP, I don't think I've used the MVP logo at all. I don't have to tell people I'm an MVP anymore. Now, in the early days of becoming an MVP, yes, you tend to tell everybody. But now it's not a thing that is the big highlight. Like I don't have to tell people. If people can't see my expertise, if they can't see the value I'm creating, I'm doing something wrong, right? So it should be by your actions that people see that. And then, as I say, be vulnerable. You don't have to be right. The key thing is, a skilled individual will always admit when they get it wrong. So when I make mistakes, I admit it. Like there's no drama for me, and it's partly got to do with maturity of person or personality, is that ability to be vulnerable and be genuine, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? It's how you make people feel is what will stick with them long after they've learned what you had to share. So the other thing is that an MVP has a learn-it-all attitude. They are not prepared to get to a point that they feel like they know everything. They never have a know-it-all attitude. They have a learn-it-all attitude. And they're always hungry to learn more. They're always hungry to share their knowledge. And so if you want to become an MVP, you should be looking at, would you do what you do? Would you be involved with the technology that you're involved in if nobody paid you? Do you enjoy it just for the sake of enjoyment? Do you love it just because of the sake of you love it? And the MVP is a bonus that would come on that. So if you're learning it all because you just love it, and if I look at my story, and 16 years ago, I installed CRM 1.2 in the company I work for, Microsoft CRM 1.2. And that was only 9 months after the product even came to market. Because at the start of 2003, they released CRM 1.0 and quickly released 1.2. I fell in love with it. It was clearly, I felt like I totally pivoted my whole career. I was managing a training company in Sun Microsystems at the time. And I pivoted my entire career and changed. I set up a company, Magnetism, in New Zealand, and then moved to Australia and built the largest practice in Australia, twice the size of my closest competitor. And I wouldn't have done any of that if I just hadn't loved the technology. And I had an attitude that I want to learn it all. Now, it's harder these days to learn it all because the product set is so large. You know, you just think 3 years ago, Microsoft had 1,600 engineers working on Microsoft business applications. The figure I heard 2 weeks ago is they now have 7,000 engineers working on Microsoft business applications. And that's just over a 2-year period. It's ramped from that to that. That's why so much is coming all the time. And in fact, a little bit after this call this morning, I'm on a roadmap call for 2020 and seeing what's new coming out or planned for 2020. And that's part of what you get as an MVP, is this inside knowledge with the product team. The other thing about becoming an MVP is about being as consistency. So it's about consistently sharing your knowledge. And so, you know, one of the criteria they look at on the MVP program is, in the past 12 months, what have you done? What have you done or created as content and shared with the community? Have you spoken? How many forum posts have you answered where your answer was the correct, validated answer? It's no good to answer and not be the corrected, validated answer. It has to be the corrected, validated answer, and it has to be the first corrected, validated answer for it to count. You know, how many videos you're creating, how many people are listening to your speaking sessions, that type of thing. This is about consistency. So over time, you need to regularly do something. So if I look at my past year, 2019 right now, you know, I produced 33 videos on how to become an MVP. On top of those 33 videos, I did another 30 video interviews with various people that I published over the course of the year. I wrote 2 blog posts every week for the last 6 months. I think it's actually might have been the last 8 months I've done that. I released 2 podcasts a week. Now I've built up to this over time, but I'm consistent. If I say I release a podcast every Tuesday, I release it every Tuesday. If I say I release it every Thursday, I release it every Thursday. I am consistent in what I share. And so it can get a bit formulaic, and that you got to be careful not to get there. You've always got to be measuring, are people finding it? So you need to track your stats. Are people finding what I'm creating valuable? Are they commenting, engaging with it, sharing it, liking it, that type of thing? So here is your exercise. So I want you to answer this question. How can you get involved? And what I want you to do is, in the chat window now, is I want you to just quickly, every idea that comes to mind, if you consider 2020, how are you going to get involved in the local community in India? What are you going to do? What are you going to lead? What are you going to create? And I want you to put all the answers in chat right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to jump across to chat, and let's see what you put in there. Let's bring up the chat window and let's see what you have to say. Okay, so at the moment, we've got nothing in there. So I'll go to finish off when I get a few answers. Blog video, cool, I like it. Writing blogs, great. You say active in the community. What do we mean by active on the communities? Give me specific examples. Publish video on Power BI, love it, I love it. Create some useful extensions, great. You're gonna create some third party, put them up on GitHub, that type of thing, love it. What else? Because once you kind of have a direction here, local knowledge sharing meetups, I love it. Yeah, meetups is a great idea. I think I've created 6, 8 meetups now, and then I've helped facilitate a lot all around the world. Writing blogs and social media commentary, yeah, love it. Think of social media as kind of like cream on the cake. It's not, you won't get nominated and or become a MVP because of social media commentary. But it's good for a sharing tool. Building XRM toolbox tools, I like it. Browser tools. Yep, I love, there's some great Chrome extensions out there. Try to help and provide solutional queries, consistent blogging, consistent GitHub projects. I love it. Yeah, contribute to GitHub projects. Perfect. Again, there's a great examples of how to get involved. Well done, well done. So Once you consider how you could get involved, then you need to look at, okay, how do I plan out my year to make sure I'm consistent and provide those contributions? I would love to see a thriving, community across India of folks. Some more chats coming in there. Let's just take a look at them. What else have we got there? Manage WhatsApp group and answer tech questions. Great. Help NGOs and charities and technologies for development. I love it. These are all really great answers. And listen, you don't have to be a guru now, right? I see people changing their careers, just entering this space for the first time. It's always, it comes down to having a heart or an intent of sharing your knowledge. And as I say, I'd love to see India become the largest local user group community in the world. It has the population to support it. The technology is exploding all the time. There's so much opportunity for growth from a community perspective across India. Now, the other thing is, I'm just going to touch on here, English is a second language. You don't have to do these things all in English. You can do them in your local language for wherever you may be. Definitely don't feel that you have to always, be doing these type of things in English. The other thing is that if you're going to run events like this, what I love about this event is that here I am in Auckland, New Zealand. Yes, it's 4 a.m. in the morning when I started this. I had set an alarm to get up, but you can get your speakers to your events from anywhere in the world, right? As in, this is the beauty of technology. Get a microphone, get a camera on, and a PowerPoint. You can share this information. This month, I did a presentation to the user group in Adelaide, Australia. Last month, I did a presentation it was actually the month before, in Perth, Australia, and I was in Vancouver, Canada at the time. The beauty with the technology, you can get speakers from all over the place if you run these local events, as long as you have an internet connection and, can get like Zoom or Teams or something like that set up and working. Okay, that brings us to the end of this little presentation. Things to do, act now, right? Think about how, even this session right now, you could have been taking screenshots and tweeting those out and putting hashtags on them and things like that, that you're involved in the session. Because you start sending a message to the audience, to Microsoft, to the community, that this is a passionate area that you're involved in. Could you be shooting video right now? Could you just, grab your phone up in front of you and could you shoot a video straight after the session and just do a quick, I was just on this training session and even talk about this, forum. This is the 21st episode. Talk a bit about it and share it out on YouTube or share it out on any of your social media channels. Don't be afraid about getting your face in front of this. One of the things I do on my 90-day mentoring challenge, the very first thing people must do when they join the group, and I have a private group they run in, the first thing they must do these days is introduce themselves on video, because video is the best medium to get to a wide global audience quickly. And so you should get comfortable. You don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be the number one Bollywood actor out there to get your face on camera. But you should get your face on camera and you should share your authentic, genuine you as part of that. Share on Twitter. And of course, if I look at why I just put Twitter and LinkedIn here, they are the two main sharing communication channels that we have in our community. And with that, I will close out with this. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't be shy. I accept connections from anybody in our community that want to chat, engage, have questions. I have 3 podcasts here. The 365 show always has Microsoft guests. So it's dedicated to only Microsoft PMs, people in the product team or in Microsoft senior management on that. The MVP show, if you want to become an MVP, this is an important show for you. It happens every Thursday. And it's interviewing existing MVPs. And I asked them, it's about 25 minutes long. I asked them, how did you become an MVP? What recommendations you'd be having to become an MVP? So, I've done that all this year. So there's at least 52 episodes up there just from this year alone. And then the Power Platform show is really where I interview people from all over the world that's involved in the Power Platform, whether it's Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. And I interview lots of people from Microsoft partners. I interview customers. I know I've got a show going live soon with Pepsi out of the US and how they're using Power Apps all across their organization. I'm on across, as you can see, I'm on a wide range of social media networks, but also consider, what was it? Just go back to this one here. As I say, watch those videos, and then, I have this thing called the Microsoft Business Applications 90-Day Mentoring Challenge. It's 100% free. And as of tomorrow, I'm closing this for 2020. So in January, I kick off. I've already got 80 odd people on this. It's 100% free, but over 90 days, I'm going to input into you intently. There's 6 major sessions where I deconstruct this whole ecosystem, from how to be an effective consultant to which career path should you take. And so if you're interested in that, fill in this form. There's lots of testimonial videos out there. There's a few people in their comments that you can see testimonials here from past people. There's lots of videos now up on YouTube and also Twitter, that type of thing, where past people have commented about being on the program. So I highly recommend you do that. As I say, the cutoff is tomorrow. And that's my cutoff for the 2020 intake, which will start in January. So come midnight tomorrow night, I'll probably actually be taking this form off the website because I've had well over, I think, 120 people apply, and I've accepted 80 of those so far into the program. And with that, I will hand back, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Great. That's a great session, Mike. So if anyone have any questions, you can just open up your mic and ask, or you can even put it in the chat.
Mark, this is Suresh here.
Hey.
Mark, thank you for this wonderful session, and it was quite, like we all, at least I felt very, lot of knowledge, and you actually boost my confidence a lot. Thank you for that. And my question is, you were mentioning about the technology changes. Like if you're publishing a book, now the bookshelf time is very less, or practically by that time technology is upgraded. Same thing I have felt it. When you are in a project, so most of the time is consumed by the project, and your technology upgrade is kind of dependent on that project. So how to cope up with this challenge, and how to keep yourself active in learning new or advanced technology?
That's a brilliant question, and I actually had dinner this week with a guy called Raghus, who's he just heads back to India next week from Auckland, New Zealand. He came through my 90-day mentoring challenge, and one of the challenges he had with his career is that he was inside the company he worked for, and he was working for an end customer. He was considered as the CRM guru, right? The problem was he was the CRM guru on Dynamics 2011, right? CRM 2011. And of course, here he is in 2019, the guru in his company on CRM 2011 on premise. And of course, the whole world's changed, right? And so part of going through that 19-minute challenge, he realized that his knowledge was actually on the global scale all obsolete, right? Nobody these days are hiring CRM 2011 experts. And so I said to him, listen, you've got to fundamentally separate your career from your job, right? Your job is what you do each day to day, and you do the work that your employer requires, right? Even if you're independent, right? You're working for somebody else and you're bringing your skills to them. But you should never see your skill development fundamentally dependent on your job. You should always develop your skills independent of your job. And so therefore, you have to see your career as something totally separate to your job. You've got to, and when I say your career, in other words, your ability to learn and become more valuable. So you should be doing a self-assessment every quarter with yourself and going over the past quarter, am I smarter on current technologies now more than I was 3 months ago? And you should self-assess and have an audit with yourself and go, am I getting smarter? And therefore, part of that assessment will be, what am I going to do in the next 3 months to get smarter, to learn more, that type of thing. And so the thing is, you actually have to plan this into your life, because it's not going to happen naturally from your job. So for example, 2 years ago, I decided to get smarter in a lot of areas that I wasn't smart in, and I started reading books. And because what I found was I was snacking a lot on social media. So I was having a little bit here on social media, a little bit here, reading a short article here, reading a blog post. And I call these all snack food, right? It's not really healthy food, it's snack food. But if you want to get really healthy food, you need to have a proper, prepared meal. Some good veggies in there, healthy food that's nourishing to your body. Now, if I look at that in the learning perspective, that for me is reading books or doing training courses and things like that. So I decided, hey, I'm going to read 62 books. And in 2018, I read, I think, 68 books that year. Yesterday, I just finished for 2019 my 68th book for the year. So I've read 68 books this year. And by the time I'm finished, I think I'll hit 70 by the end of the 31st of this month. Now, none of that happens naturally, right? That happens because I plan. I get up in the morning. I always start my day early, and I'm not a natural morning person, and I read 2 blocks of 25 minutes each day. And that allows me to get through that volume of books over time. If you go to my website, nz365go.com, and go to resource section and go to books, you will see right up to the most recent book I've read. I've listed all the books I've read over the last 2 years. But you have to plan for your learning. You have to plan it. You have to plan it. It doesn't come from your job. And everybody goes, well, I don't have time. Well, you have just as much time as Elon Musk, and he's got SpaceX, he's got Tesla. You've got just as much time as Bill Gates. You've got just as much time as anybody in the world. You've got to decide whether you're going to use the time excuse against yourself, or you're going to use the time excuse to help yourself. In other words, you've got just as much time as anybody in the world. And this includes, I'm saying this from the perspective of having family as well. One of the key pivoting points for me was a book that I read called The Miracle Morning, which says if you just got up half an hour earlier each day and spent that half an hour, 7 days a week, just learning new stuff, that adds up to a lot of hours across a year. It's the accumulation of small habits in our life that actually allows us to learn heaps. So I recommend you plan to learn where you want to go in your career. Don't rely on your job to take you there. Any other questions?
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, Mark, I have a question. Firoz here.
Yeah.
You talk about MVP application process and all that. So I have a very specific question. So what is the window for applying for MVP?
Can you say that again? What's a what?
What is the window for applying for MVP? How many times? In a year?
Okay, very good question. So what happens is that every month on the first of the month, Microsoft announced the new MVPs from the previous month. So you will see in, the 1st of December, 1st of January, 1st of March, all the way through the year, you will see announcement of new MVPs. Now, the key thing here is that the only time of the year you won't see announcements of new MVPs is April, May, and June. Those are the only times you don't, because what they're doing is assessing in April, May, June, Microsoft is assessing all existing MVPs and deciding whether they stay MVPs or not. So they don't accept nominations just in those 3 months, but the other 9 months of the year are open for MVP nomination.
Okay. So what is the basic criteria for the nomination?
So either a Microsoft employee has to nominate you, or a Microsoft MVP can nominate you. It needs to be one of those two. And if either of those people, either a Microsoft employee or a Microsoft MVP, nominate you, you need to know that person well, because they're going to vouch for you. So I have people come to me and go, hey, would you nominate me? And I've never heard of them before. And I just go, no, I've never heard of you. Unless I know you, unless you've been talking and you've built a relationship, even if the relationship has been built with me online over time and stuff, I wouldn't nominate you just because you ask. Because I'm going to put my reputation on the line to Microsoft and go, I vouch for you, and I recommend you becoming an MVP. So the last person I nominated as an MVP was a guy called Andrew Lee, and that was over 3 years ago. And I haven't nominated anybody since because, as I say, if you're going to be nominated and you're going to talk to somebody or that's an existing MVP or a Microsoft employee, they really need to know your work. They need to see your consistent pattern of community contribution over time to be able to nominate you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good.
Mark, is there any criteria like you need to write some X blogs and publish videos on YouTube? Something? Is there any specific criteria or minimum thing that you need to meet?
So if you go to mvp.microsoft.com, that's where Microsoft lists the criteria. So everyone can get there. If you explore this, you can see overview of the program, and there's a section here is what does it take to be an MVP.
Okay.
And in here, Microsoft outlines what it takes to be an MVP. There is no other, like one thing about the MVP program, it is a black box. Microsoft don't publish, you need to do exactly this or exactly that. That's why in my video series, I just put down what I've observed, what I've seen work. But here is, under the MVP website, here is specifically what Microsoft say. Contribution to code on projects, in-person speaking at events, helping others, creating content, providing feedback. Those are the key areas. They don't say do 10 of them, do 100 of them, do 5 of them. They don't give any numbers. But, my rule of 27 video kind of gets what I kind of observe and around timeframes of what I've seen over my 9 years of being an MVP. But this website, it's fully publicly available. Anybody can get in there. You should have at least gone through under, the overview, MVP award technology structures, the code of conduct, what it takes to be an MVP, how to get nominated as an MVP, meet an MVP award team, blog, video, Microsoft Docs, latest artifacts, etc. This here is a key area. And if you specifically, want to go after a specific award category, so let's say, if you look here at the award categories, so let's say it's business application, or let's say data plat, which covers Power BI. If you search in there, it will list, there you go, 354 AI data platform type folks you can see in that category. Now, if you look at the first or second of each month, depending on the time zone you're in, you'll see whether this number goes up, and you can see, okay, who are the new people? So if I look in here and I go business applications, for example, and do a search, right now there's 195 business applications MVPs. So what you'll see is at the end of April, this number will drop as Microsoft remove people from the MVP program that are no longer in it. And then after that point, each month, you'll see it incrementally climb again back to the March part of the year as new MVPs come on. And so if I look at this list here, you'll see each month this gets updated. There's Andrew Lee, that guy I was talking about that I nominated. And, you can go through here and you can see everybody's award category. Is my old business colleague, Guy Pereira, one of my mates. He's actually the best man at my wedding. He's actually married to my niece, and we started magnetism together. Here's another employee that I had in magnetism in New Zealand. All these people, though, have been nominated or become MVPs over time in the business application space. So this is Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents. It's all the ERP products, all the CRM type products, or anything that comes under Microsoft Biz Apps. Apart from Power BI, Power BI is in its own award category. Cool.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll hand back to you, Faraz.
Cool. So anyone have any other questions? So look like there are no more questions. All right, so it was a great session, Mike. It's really helped us to understand how to become an MVP and what all things we need to focus on. And it's really inspired us. In fact, even I am one of the person was trying one of the persons in the EGC who are trying to become an MVP. So I hope it's really helped all of us to become an MVP. And yeah, and thanks a lot. And also we are looking forward to your help and guidance towards DGC in the future as well, because we need help from you guys in all this kind of activities, Mark. Yeah, so thanks a lot once again. And guys, this session will be session is already recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So in fact, this is the 21st episode, and all the 20 episodes so far have been recorded and uploaded here. So you can just subscribe to the channel, and then you can just get all the latest recording of the sessions here. And also you can just you can follow DGC LinkedIn page for all the updates about the events and sessions that we conduct. And also you can just visit DGC Global Community, where you have forums, and then you also going to just publish all our events in this website. So thanks everyone for joining in today. So have a good day. Good night.